Hey, Mark.
Alan, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Welcome to Keller Williams.
Thank you.
Come on in.
Thank you so much.
So Mark is with First Capital Insurance Brokers. They're property and casualty brokers. And we've been working together for a long time. And I've invited Mark here to talk about flood insurance and the new FEMA rules. Mark, first things first. What is the difference between flood insurance and hazard or homeowners insurance?
Yeah, great question. So homeowners covers from basically everything coming down inside to the house. Rain or flood waters covers from the FEMA policies cover from basically rising waters coming up. I get this question a lot. You know, what happens if a tree falls and lands on my roof and rain comes into my house? Well, that's the homeowner policy because it's not rising water. Rising water has to come from outside the home coming up. And with FEMA to apply, it has to include at least two properties in a certain proximity for it to be covered.
So you say everyone's in a flood zone, but if I'm 30 miles inland, why should I get flood insurance?
Well, so we recommend flood insurance to everyone. It doesn't matter where you live. So when you stop and think about flood and how water flows, so even if you live in Somerville, it rains. That rain has to go somewhere. It goes into rain drainage, or the drainage systems they build. Those all go into the rivers. If everybody's getting the same amount of rain, it doesn't have to come from a hurricane. It can come from any afternoon thunderstorm that we get that dumps a lot of rain. When the rivers are full, it's going to back up and go into your street, which could then go into your house. Perfect example. Look in Columbia in 2015. All the rain they got up there, it flooded a lot of homes that were completely destroyed. They had more damage in 2015 than we did in 16, 17, and 18 combined in the Charleston area for flood damage.
Can anyone buy flood insurance at any point in time?
You can always buy flood insurance. FEMA has a 30-day wait on policies, and that waiting period starts when you actually pay for the policy. So obviously if you see a storm coming, that storm's going to come and go by the time that policy kicks into place. However, private flood insurance typically has a 10-day wait, and that policy will then start 10 days after you pay for the policy.
Okay, so if you see a storm and you want coverage, basically you're out of luck.
That's correct, because typically storms have already come and gone, even in a 10-day period. So most of our phone calls that we get when people see hurricanes is about flood insurance. So it's better to start that conversation earlier in the year so that you're then covered through hurricane season. But going backwards though, flood doesn't always happen just from a hurricane. It could happen from any afternoon thunderstorm or from things that happen in the upstate that flow down this way. It doesn't have to come from a storm, a hurricane, so to speak.
So Mark, I understand that there were some big changes in the way that FEMA rates homes for flood insurance. What are those and what happened?
So before, we use elevation certificates to then rate properties. And this gets back into houses built before 1974 didn't need elevation certificates because that's before FEMA came out with rules and regulations. Anything built from 74 and thereafter had to have an elevation certificate. Well, today FEMA has changed the maps in the area, and this started in 2015. They did a whole new topography of the area, and then they released these maps in certain counties at different times. So in Berkeley and Dorchester County, they came out in 2018 to 19. In Charleston County, it came out in January 29th of 2021. And then following that, they came out with a new rating system, which started in effect as of April 1st, 2022. The new rating system uses the valuation of what they deem the value of the property, as well as their own rating as far as the elevation of the property. So we have new maps and new rating being used today.
Before, it was very common that older properties paid a lot more for flood insurance than the newer properties. Has that changed?
So it has changed. And based on the new rating system, what FEMA calls the new 2.0 rating system, is older properties, even properties built after 74 or brand new properties, all fall under the same rating factors now. And they use their own rating system for how high the property is built off the ground to then rate for the property. So it doesn't mean just because it's older that it's going to be more expensive anymore.
Before, when people had flood insurance premium that was too high, they were able to maybe put more venting or get an elevation certificate to try to reduce their premium. Is that still the case?
Well, we still use elevation certificates, but it's not a driving force anymore for reducing the rate. So again, FEMA's done its own mapping of how high the property is off the ground. They've used drone technology to do its own topography of the area. So they already know the elevation. So me entering in the elevation and the venting of the property isn't as big of a rating factor anymore. We used to use those all the time to rate for the property. Now it will reduce the premium $50 for the year. It's not a big rating factor. So now we try to look at both options between FEMA and private. Which one comes out better?
Okay, so it's a brand new system. So what effect does that have on homeowners and on potential home buyers?
So great question. So a big discount that FEMA gives now today is if somebody currently has a FEMA flood policy in place, and it has to be a FEMA flood policy. We now have to get a copy of that FEMA flood declaration to give a discount, and it's a big discount on the policy. So if you're selling a house and you have FEMA flood, you need to make sure you get that to us so that we can then apply that discount to somebody that's buying the new that same property.
Okay, and if they don't have a FEMA flood policy?
So we look at it both ways. We look at FEMA, and then we also look at private flood insurance. So then we know which way comes out better. Now FEMA is still going to cap you at $250,000 on the building and $100,000 in contents. It's the max coverage you can get through FEMA. Private insurance, which follows FEMA, gives you up to $1 million on the building and gives you higher contents limits. Just depends. You can pick your limits at that point in time.
So I understand that some of the flood zones have changed with this remapping. Are they better? Are they worse? How do those change?
So most of it is for the better in our area. So a lot of people have gone from either VE, which is meaning wave action, down to either AE or what they call an X flood zone. Depends on the area and the location of the property. But either way, most of those have gone down in rate. So most people, their properties used to be at a higher rate, have now gone to a lower rate.
Okay, so if I was at a higher rate and now I'm at a lower rate, am I going to get a discount on my flood insurance policy automatically, or do I have to request it?
So FEMA typically goes back and they will adjust the policy accordingly. They will automatically do that. Now, it's the government. It does take some time for it to go through. It's not automatic the next day they're sending out a refund check. It does take time for them to get to it, but they will get to it.
Mark, as you know, property values have increased substantially all over the Charleston area. And so there are many homes that are very high value at the moment. If I have, or if I want to buy a high value property in the area, what would be the best scenario for me to insure it for flood?
So we try to look at it multiple ways. We try to look at the value of the property and then offer FEMA as well as private insurance. Now FEMA still only maxes at $250,000 on the building with $100,000 in content. Private can go up to $1 million, so you can get FEMA at $250,000 plus $1 million in private, or we just look at private up to $1 million. So you could either put them together or do one separately.
And you offer those alternatives for anyone?
Yes, we offer those alternatives for everybody. Not everybody wishes to have flood, but we try to encourage everybody to have flood insurance.
That's because we're in the low country, emphasis on low, right?
Correct. And what people don't understand is when it says a flood zone, everybody's in a flood zone. There is a flood zone for everyone, doesn't matter where you live. X still means that you should have it, in my opinion, but the banks or the lenders do not require you to have it.
So if I have flood insurance and my house floods, does the FEMA policy cover loss of use, or I pay for a hotel?
So FEMA does not have loss of use coverage in the policy. Now there are options though with private flood insurance that they do offer that as an endorsement, but you have to ask for the endorsement to get it.
And is it more expensive?
No, it's not more expensive, at least to have the endorsement. That doesn't mean that private is always cheaper than FEMA, but FEMA just doesn't offer the loss of use coverage.
Let's suppose that we have a storm or a hurricane, and I get damaged both in my roof from above, and I also get flooded from a pond that flooded in my neighborhood. How do I deal with those claims?
So we actually file the claim with both your homeowner policy and then the flood policy. What most people don't know is that floodwaters leave a very distinct line either in the floor, the baseboards, the sheetrock, whatever it might be. So your flood policy would come in and say, hey, we have from that line where the flood damage reads, they would cover from there going down. The homeowner policy would look at that line and say, hey, I got from here any damage going up. And they work it out between themselves. What most people don't know is that if you have a mortgage on your property, we have those mortgages listed on your policy. Then when you get a claim check, let's say you did have a claim and you got one from the flood and you got one from home. You need to make sure you send that claim check to the mortgage company to get it endorsed first, and then it comes back to you for you to endorse. So then you can go deposit the check. But you have to make sure that the bank, your mortgage company, endorses the check for you as well.
Why is that?
Because they have an interest in the property. They have a lien on the property, and that lien says they also get a claim check, or you have to have them endorse the claim check because they have a lien on the house.
That makes sense. Mark, thank you for spending some time with us talking about flood insurance. It has been a wealth of information, a lot to digest. And I'm sure that people will have a lot of questions. How can they reach you?
Well, they can call us over at First Capital Insurance at any time at 843-216-2772. And we have multiple agents there that they can assist in any questions regarding flood insurance or homeowners as well.
All right, Mark. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with
us.
us.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to doing the next transaction with you. At the Allen Donald team, we not only have professional service in the real estate part, but we also have allied resources with professionals who are knowledgeable and experienced in each of their service areas. If you need any other professionals, please give us a call at 843-900-0155. This is Alan, and until the next one.